All right. Hi, everyone. So thank you so much for joining me tonight. My name is Stephanie Wicker. Tonight, we are going to be talking about how to create resilient and cooperative kids without yelling, nagging, threatening, punishing, begging, bribing, coercing, coaxing, all of those things. So I'm really, really excited to have you here tonight. I hope that you have set aside enough time to really learn this stuff because you want to give me maybe 45, maybe 60 minutes to really get into this content because there's absolutely incredible stuff. So if you do not know me, I am Stephanie Wicker. I'm a behavior consultant in Sydney, Australia, an absolute lover of psychology, cognitive sciences, and behavior analysis. You can learn more about me at stephaniewicker.com. I have been helping families just like yours for over 13 years, dealing with challenging behaviors, maybe disengagement in the classroom, maybe having issues with building interpersonal relationships and connections with others, or maybe just some of the basics like having tantrums and nagging and problem behaviors. All of those wonderful things I have supported many, many families through already, and I hope to support yours. So stick with me tonight, and you are going to learn these 6 incredible things. We are going to be looking at the top 3 developmental reasons that toddlers are so doggone unreasonable. We're going to talk about what is happening in your child's brain during a tantrum. Very important information for any parent to know. We're going to discuss the top 3 things every parent should be teaching from early on. We're going to look at 5 genius ways to create cooperative toddlers without nagging, yelling, or begging. Doesn't that sound great? All right. We are also going to be learning step-by-step application of these simple strategies. And lastly, I'm going to tell you how you can bring your best to parenting starting today. So like I said, you're going to need a lot of time for tonight. So make sure you're taking notes. I'm going to be talking fast. I always do. I try not to, but I get so doggone excited. So I do talk a little quick. I hope you can keep up with me. All right. Let us start off with why toddlers are so difficult. All right, so if we don't cover this first, then we can possibly introduce the strategies later on. This is just the foundation information that we need so we can understand their development. Let's understand what is going on in their little brains before we try to shape it, right? You can't possibly change something that you don't know anything about. So let's have a look at 3 reasons that toddlers are so unreasonable, so difficult, and why they're called the terrible twos. The first thing that I want to look at is the early emotional development of the midbrain. All right, so we are going to be looking briefly at what health psychology tells us about early brain development, especially around this age, from 14 months to 24 months. We have a beautiful picture of what's going on in the brain. So the first thing that I want to tell you about is something called stressors. When the brain experiences something that interrupts their expectations, maybe it breaks up their routine for whatever reason, then the brain identifies it as a stressor, and it goes straight into the midbrain. The midbrain is where we have perception, memories, emotions, all that murky stuff, right? That all takes place in the midbrain or the amygdala. And the midbrain, once it's evoked, it triggers the brainstem. Now, guess what? The brainstem is where the fight, flight, freeze responses, survival skills, are located. Now, the brain does this for a reason. Now, we're not going to go into all the nitty-gritty of what's going on, but it's good to know that as an adult, I have executive functioning skills. My prefrontal cortex is very developed, and I'm able to problem solve, I'm able to self-soothe, I'm able to come up with solutions when I handle a stressor. When I experience a stressor, I'm able to solve it. Now that's because I'm 33, all right? That's because I've had a lifelong time to build those skills. Those skills we are not born with. Those are things that we work on and develop throughout our lives, and some people are really good at them, and some people really struggle at them simply because they didn't get enough exposure and practice at a young age. All right, so now let's talk about toddlers. With a stressor for a toddler, that might look like someone saying no to them. That might be something as simple as wait your turn, or not right now, or we need to get into the car, so you need to stop playing. A stressor looks very different to a toddler than it does to an adult. As an adult, a stressor is something like maybe jumping in the car on your way to work and, oh no, there's traffic, I'm going to be late. I'm able to solve that problem. I'm able to look at my GPS and go, I can get, these new directions to get to work. I can call my boss and let them know I'm going to be late. There are many things that I can do. There are options available to me. Now, For a brain that's only 14 months, 18 months, 24 months old, it looks completely different. They do not have that very well developed executive functioning skills in their prefrontal cortex, which means that everything goes straight into their fight, flight, or freeze responses. So imagine how difficult it would be to handle a stressor if you didn't have all of those skills of problem solving, reasoning, right? Self-soothing. If you weren't able to do that, imagine how much harder life would be. All right, well, welcome to the life of a toddler, all right? So things that would not stress us absolutely stress the heck out of the poor kids, right? And then what's more than that is they don't have the executive functioning skills to cope. So that's one of the number one reasons that toddlers are so difficult. That's why they tantrum so quickly. That's why they're so unpredictable. And that's why they're so unreasonable. You can try to explain something to a toddler and they just scream and cry and they have no clue what you're saying, right? Simply because their brain skills haven't developed that yet. All right, so that's just a quick look at the health psychology for reason number one. Let's dive into reason number two. The second reason that kids can be so difficult is simply because they're in the egocentric stage of brain development. So what in the world does that mean? All right, so an egocentric brain, which by the way, we continue to have egocentric brains. It's just over time we develop social skills and adaptiveness and all of these other wonderful things. Whereas when you're still young, those little brains haven't developed all the skills and all of those adaptive skills that we have, right? That means that their perspective is extremely limited. So if a child is under 4 years old, even under 5 years old for some kids, then that means that they do not have perspective taking skills. Now, what am I talking about? What does all this stuff mean? All right, so I have a little picture of an octopus here, right? This is my example. So let's say that you have a painting of an octopus, and you stick it on the table. All right, so it's standing up, and the little toddler, you put her in front of the octopus, and you say, hey, what can you see? She's going to tell you, I see a pink octopus and blue water, blah, 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 right? Now, let's say that you now walk to the other side of the table. You are now behind the picture. And then you ask her, what can I see, right? So what can I see? And she says, an octopus, water, right? Even though you cannot see the octopus. An adult would look at you and say, you see the back of the picture. Even a 7 and 8-year-old might say, you see the back of the picture, you see the table. But guess what? A child under 4 or 5, they're going to tell you that you see an octopus. Okay? So they think that everyone experiences the same thing that they do. They do not understand that other people have different thoughts, different needs, different desires. So this idea that, man, my toddler or my child, they are just so selfish all the time, so egocentric. Yeah, they are. You're totally right. They are for a reason. That's where their brain is currently at in their developmental stage. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. So that is reason number 2 that toddlers can be so doggone difficult. All right, reason number 3, we're flying through this. Reason number 3 is language expansion in the growing brain and how those two things combine. All right, so I have a question for you. Who recalls the first time that your toddler yelled no in your face? Because we've all been there, right? We've all experienced something like that. And who can recall the very first time that this beautiful angel that you love so much just started screaming to high heaven in the shops, and you very quickly were like, oh, okay, shush, quiet, baby, right? Right? So they got this big emotional response from you. So if your toddler yells no in your face, a lot of the time the parent is going to go, oh, yes, you will do it. You will do it right now. And they get this very big reaction. Children learn very, very quickly that language is empowering. The moment that a toddler says no, the moment that a toddler refuses to do something and falls to the floor crying, guess what? They get a big reaction. They just took control back of their environment. Now, this is completely natural brain development. Their brain is craving control, independence. It's seeking its identity in the world, right? That's what brains do. So when your toddler is yelling in your face, crying, falling to the floor, they are seeking empowerment. They are trying to gain some control of their life, some control. Because if you think about it, toddlers and kids, they really don't have very much control of what's going on around them, right? So they learn very quickly that language is the key. And they're totally right, because it works. When they yell no, they get a big response from us. Okay, all right, so those are my 3 top reasons that toddlers can be very, very difficult. Look at this cute guy. All right, so why am I talking about all this? Because now that's a lot of information, and you might be thinking like, what? Toddlers are the hardest thing ever. What am I possibly going to do? All right, well, first off, you're going to be okay. You are in great hands, my hands, and I'm going to teach you exactly what your toddler needs in order to be successful. So what all parents should be teaching from a very young age are self-esteem, self-regulation, and self-soothing. Remember when I was talking about being an adult, being able to problem solve my way out of a traffic jam? All right, it's because I was using these 3 skills. We are not born with these 3 skills. Babies don't pop out being able to compromise with their peers, right? These are developed over time. Some adults still struggle with this. If I am very emotional, not thinking clearly, then guess what? My skills go down really quickly, and I actually struggle with these things. So these are skills that we all develop from a young age, but we continue working on them, practicing them for years, okay? So these are the 3 things that all parents need to be teaching their kids. Now, how the heck do we teach these 3 things? Well, I'm glad you asked. I'm going to give you 5 very, very simple ways to introduce those 3 skills to your kids right now. Okay, so these are all very practical that you can literally go apply straight away. All right, so practicing resilience and cooperation. These are the 5 steps that we are going to be talking about. I'm going to try to get through this quickly because I don't want this to be taking up too much of your precious time tonight. Step number 1 is we are going to replace telling with asking. Step number 2, we're going to ask open-ended questions instead of closed-ended questions. I'll explain that in a second. Step number 3, we're going to practice dropping no. No is such a big stressor that their little brains are automatically going to have a resistance, okay? So that's just a physiological response in the brain to resist when they experience a stressor such as no, wait your turn. So we really want to try to drop that language as much as we can. That doesn't mean we're eliminating no. Of course, we're going to say no. We need them to build those skills. However, I'm going to give you a very simple replacement skill or a replacement technique that you can start using to teach your child how to self-soothe and how to regulate their big emotional responses to hearing no without even hearing it. And I'll explain all that in just a second. The next step we're going to do is rearrange the environment by using a first then statement. And the last thing is we're going to start placing easy demands before the hard demands. Okay, all right. So those are my 5 steps. I hope you're ready for this because I'm going to go quick. All right, the first thing is asking versus telling. This is for building self-esteem and problem solving at a very, very early age. You can introduce this as soon as your child is talking. So basically between 14 and 18 months, you can start using this. So asking versus telling, what does that mean? All right. Do you notice that you tell your child what to do all the time? Go brush your teeth, go get a bag, go get this, go get that. Did you do that? Did you do this? Right? We're constantly telling them what to do. We're constantly reminding them. I want to encourage you to start replacing some of those telling statements with asking statements. So instead of saying, go put your hat on, maybe you can say something like, oops, what do you need to put on your head? It's very cold outside. This allows them to solve an extremely simple problem. And what you are going to find is as soon as they go, a hat, and they go and they get it and they put it on, and you're like, wow, you are so brilliant, good job. You're going to see them their self-esteem is going to develop right in front of you. And they are going to learn that problem solving is not something that is difficult or overwhelming. It doesn't have to be really hard for them. It can be super, super simple. This way they're successful and they're more likely to do it again. The more often that you ask your child very simple questions such as that, what do you need to do so you have clean teeth? What do you need to do to get ready for bed? What do you need to do so we can read a story? Simple, simple questions like, I need to go get my books and I need to brush my teeth, right? All of these little things that they can solve It will start to build their self-esteem. And what's more than that is they are going to actually start thinking that way rather than relying on you to tell them what to do all the time. So do you notice that your toddler is constantly following you around? Do you notice that your toddler is very dependent on you? Then maybe it's time to introduce asking versus telling and just watch their independence grow right in front of your eyes. All right, the next tip is understanding the difference between an open and closed questions. How often have you had this problem when you say, hey, do you want to put your shoes on so we can go to school? And your kid goes, no, I don't. No. And then you're stuck, you're trapped, right? So asking a closed-ended question, which is answered with yes or no, can be very murky if you're trying to build compliance. You really want to avoid yes or no questions whenever you're trying to get your child to obey. You're placing a demand. There is no choice available to them, so don't make it out like there is. Because you know what happens? As soon as your child says no, and then you go, well, you have to. Well, we're going right now. As soon as you do that, which of course we've all done, right? But as soon as we do that, we break trust. A child feels completely disempowered. And then what are they going to do if they feel disempowered? They are going to try to become empowered. They are going to try to get control back. They are going to yell. They are going to scream. They are going to resist because you just stripped them of their power. That's the way the brain works. All right? So you want to make sure that you are staying away from closed-ended questions whenever you're trying to build compliance. All right, so understanding the difference there. Now, if you do ask a closed-ended question, then you want to focus on evoking expression. So, did you have a good day at school? Yes. Or maybe you see that your child is really upset. This would be perfect for asking yes and no questions. You can say something like, you really didn't want to get in the car, did you? No. You really don't want to go anywhere, do you? No. And this gives them that opportunity to be honest with you, open with you, and for it to be accepted. We'll talk more about that another time, but very important to know the difference between an open and a closed question and how you're using it with your young child. All right, here's a big one. I want to encourage you to start dropping no. This is one of the best little tricks that you could possibly do for creating a strong connection while still maintaining control of the environment, right? We can't control kids, but we sure can control the environment and our own behaviors towards them. And that's the key to all of this, is controlling ourselves and watching them learn to control themselves. All right, so dropping no is really good for building self-regulation and for building self-soothing. Let me give you a quick example. Hey, Mom, can I have some ice cream? No, it's time for dinner. Oh, I want ice cream, right? Just like that, we evoked a stressor. What can we do instead? Mom, can I have ice cream? Sure, but we're going to have dinner first. Okay. Just like that, you created a moment of connection, and now your child is much more likely to cooperate. All right, well, what's next? First, then. It's probably one of my favorite things ever. First, then is very similar to what we just did. So you replace no, and guess what? You throw in a first then or a when then. This is excellent also for building that regulation skills through their motivation. Use something they want in your favor. If they're asking for something, use it, use it, use it. Instead of always saying no, don't do this. No, you can't do that. No, you can't. No, of course you can't have ice cream for dinner. And no, you can't have mud in the bathtub, right? All of these things. No. They hear no constantly. So when we start to replace that with yes and toss in some first thens, you're going to find they become a lot more cooperative, and your relationship is going to build right in front of your eyes. Like you guys are going to connect in a moment. It's really powerful. So for example, let's say that they're saying, I want to play with bubbles, but first they really need to take a bath. Like they're really dirty. They just came in from outside, but now they just want to play bubbles. Okay, we can play bubbles, but first go take your bath and then we'll play bubbles. Now the next thing that I want to throw in there is this would be a good time to initiate that activity. So first, let's go take a bath. This way they feel like you're part of it as well. And then you can kind of guide them physically to the bathtub while you talk about bubbles. We'll talk more about that another time, go a little bit more in depth. If you want to learn more information about these tips, by the way, then definitely work with me, because these are the areas that I teach all of my clients. All right, this is my final tip for you. I think I said the other one was my favorite, but this is probably my favorite because it's absolutely incredible for building immediate obedience. I'm talking about in 30 seconds to 1 minute time, you have your child going from fighting you because they don't want to leave the birthday party to in the car buckled up, okay? This is amazing. I have had so many clients tell me, I can't get my child to listen, especially when we're at the park, especially when, you know, we're at the shops or when we're at a birthday party or when it's time to clean up his room, he will not listen to me. So this is just an overall tip for building obedience. And this is basically placing an easy demand first. So before you tell your child it's time to leave the birthday party, you might want to start with something a little bit smaller. I would recommend throwing in 3 very, very simple requests or simple demands before you toss out the biggie of we're actually leaving right now. So you might want to start with something very simple like, hey buddy, can I get a high five? That's your first demand. Your second demand, can you tell me about what you're doing? And they answer that question. So you're requesting information from them. And then your third demand is, all right, can you go get your shoes? And then they go get their shoes. That is such awesome listening. All right, let's go to the car. What you are doing like that is you are priming their brain for obedience. You are stimulating the areas of their prefrontal cortex that primes them for being obedient. Once a brain is compliant, once a brain is in that compliant state of mind, it's much easier to keep pushing forward. You can find that you'll be able to place harder and harder and harder demands on them gradually and gently by priming their brains, okay? So this is a super simple trick that anyone can do. Okay, I'm talking so quickly because there's such awesome content in here. I hope you're taking notes. Are you ready to try this stuff? Because it's absolutely incredible. You are going to be building these 3 things. So those 5 tips are what builds self-esteem, self-regulation, and self-soothing. I really quickly want to add that yes, this is designed for parents of toddlers, but that being said, these are absolutely effective with children all the way up to 6 and 7 years old, okay? So if you have a 6 or 7-year-old who is never listening to you and is consistently defiant or consistently resistant, then guess what? These are amazing steps for building obedience, first time listening, and an incredible connection with those children. So it's not necessarily about age. It's much more about development. Where are they developmentally? If they are struggling with one of these 3 areas, self-esteem, self-regulation, self-soothing, if one of those 3 areas are just a little bit underdeveloped, it is going to show. And your child is going to be having tantrums at 4 and 5 years old, right? They're going to be having issues at school and regulating their behavior at school. Maybe they get into fights, or maybe they're in trouble a lot, or maybe they're disengaged a lot because they can't regulate their attention. So these things are going to pop up all over the place. And that's why you want to be building them as early on as you possibly can. So what are the 3 things that all parents need in order to teach those 3 things? The first thing that everyone needs is to know the foundation that shows that behavior is not personal, and it gives you peace of mind. So foundations behind your child's development is one of the most crucial things that you can do. So I highly recommend that you get to studying. Go learn about their development and why they're doing what they're doing. Why are toddlers so difficult? Why are children unreasonable? Why is my son disengaged at school? Why can't my daughter make any friends? Let's understand what's going on inside their brains during their development. Without having that foundational knowledge, you cannot possibly support them. So it all starts with that. All right, so what's the next thing that all parents need? You guys need to learn the principles of behavior, because those define why children do what they do and what they need in order to grow new skills. Without understanding what is motivating and driving behaviors, we cannot possibly have an effective consequence. So this provides confidence moving forward, because you know now, okay, this consequence, it suits the function of the behavior. It suits the purpose of that behavior, and it gives them a replacement option. All right? So I'm not going to go into too much detail again, because like I said, there's so much in here. So the last and final thing that all parents need to learn are solutions. Solutions that are child-centered and evidence-based. And that's exactly what I give my clients. So solutions that are child-centered and evidence-based techniques that support their development. It's not about how we feel about a behavior. It's not about a behavior is annoying or it's difficult. I really wish they'd stop doing that. It's not about us. It is completely about them. So just because a behavior is annoying or frustrating does not mean it should be the target. right? A behavior is a target if it's interrupting their development, it's interrupting their learning, it's interrupting their interpersonal relationships. That's when we know, okay, we need to do something about this. We need to introduce some awesome solutions. We need to get some techniques going on. We need to define the function behind the behavior so we know our consequences are effective. There's a lot of stuff involved in these three things that all parents need to know. Now, you're in luck because this is exactly what I do. And I would absolutely love to teach you on your journey of early childhood, or whether you're an early childhood educator or whether you are a parent. I work with speech pathologists and occupational therapists as well. I work with a broad range of people, supporting them through early childhood, just breaking down what is going on in our kids, why they're so difficult, and what we can do. And look how smart I look. I am just like the guru of childhood wisdom in this photo. That's ridiculous. Anyway, I thought it was funny, so I posted it. All right, so you can learn more about me at stephaniewicker.com/become a member. If you are not already a member, then I'm going to tell you about it real quick. So hang in there. We're almost done. I now have a membership called Hand in Hand Behavior Learning. And this is what you're going to get when you become a member of Hand in Hand Behavior. You are going to get behavior expertise. You will get video tutorials. You'll get online workshops like this one where you can actually ask questions and get involved. You receive accountability, audio lessons, expert guest interviews. I already have 3 incredible interviews booked up for the rest of the year. I am so excited. We've got a psychologist coming in, we've got a pediatrician coming in, and we have a counselor, and I almost forgot, we also have a behavior analyst. We have so many people already lined up to do amazing interviews for the remainder of the year. You're going to get themed learning, a private group, and weekly activities in that private group, such as Facebook Live trainings, Q&A, and all kinds of practical application skills. Okay, that's what you're going to get when you become a member, so definitely do it. But this is the important part, what you are going to create, what you are going to get out of what you get, okay? What you are going to make with me supporting you step by step all the way through. You are going to create confident parenting. You're going to create a connection during discipline. You're no longer going to feel like the bad guy when you use punishment, because guess what? I do teach punishment procedures, but they are evidence-based, they are effective, and they focus and revolve around connection before correction. It's so cool. All right, but if you want to know more about that, just ask me. All right, you are going to also create consistent parenting approaches. Learn how to be consistent with your partner, your spouse, your in-laws, your mom, your dad, whoever else is involved with your child raising. You're going to create happier kids. First-time listeners, children that love to go to school and enjoy learning and love to do homework with you, children who want to read all the time. You're going to create little problem solvers who are resourceful. They're emotionally confident kids. They don't feel ashamed of their emotions. They feel open and honest with you. They're capable of building strong relationships. And lastly, and probably one of the best things ever, your children are going to be able to show genuine affection towards one another, all through building these 3 awesome skills. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. I hope that you found a lot out of this. Please look me up at stephaniewicker.com. I would love for you to come join and come be a member. Right now, when you join, you get free access for 30 days. Test it out. See if it's up your alley. See if I can support your family the way you need to be supported. I hope to see you there.